Hi, it's me again with Corel Draw Tips and Tricks, and somebody's trying to take this photograph and turn it into a plasma cutting table. The person I'm doing it for, I made it really small, so it's less than 3 inches, and if you look at bitmaps and resample, it's already at 300 dots per inch. Because I've made it small, the original file was quite large, but after you're done, you can make it any size you want. I've already done it. There's a few things I would change. But since it's a black and white image, and I cropped out the rest of the photograph so Corel wouldn't have to trace that, I'm just going to go to bitmap trace, outline trace, clip art, and it take just a few seconds, already done, say okay, and then move the bitmap away, and you can see the white still there. But what we can do, let's move this one or just delete this one. Let's set our nudge factor on 3 inches and let's break this apart. Go to Object, Group, and Ungroup, and then grab the black and move it out of the way. So we got rid of all this trash, we got rid of all the white, so we wouldn't have to do that. And now we can put that back. Now our circle is pretty messed up. So let's zoom in here. My suggestion, and there's also some already holes for like attaching it, I guess, to a wall. I would take your shape tool and just select those and just hit delete. So go around to all 4 points and hit delete. And we're gonna fix this, and we're gonna fix the circle in here in just a second. Just one more. And I would also, even though it traced the name okay, putting the text in there would be a lot better. So we can take the shape tool and just select that text and delete it. Now we're going to take and we're going to left click, right click in black. It doesn't really matter what color. And you can see this circle isn't all that. This is the outer circle. It must be better. So it's like, let's do this with it unlocked. Let's make it at least round. Let's make it 3 by 3. Hopefully that'll make it a little more round. It won't be round because the top of the tree is not going to be round. So maybe that will not work. We might have to stretch this out just a little bit, but we're going to bring in tell you what, let's group this together. Control G, and let's hit P and put it in the center of the page. I must already have one there. Yep. So let's just delete that one. And let's take this and hit P and put it in the center of the page. Let me go ahead and delete this one. And then let's take an ellipse and let's make it 3 by 3 with our ratio locked. We can hit just 3 by 3 now. And then let's hit P, put it in the center of the page. And you can kind of see, you would want something like this round. Now let's set our nudge factor on like 0.2, and let's grab that round circle. Well, 0.2 is too much. 0.02, grab that red line and just nudge it down where it's pretty close to the other line. Now my suggestion would be to probably come in like right here with this node, select it, right click and break it apart. Then we should be able to take the virtual segment delete key and delete this line. And we did. Now we didn't delete it all the way around. So what we're gonna have to do is do the same thing on this side. Let's take that node and right click and break it apart. What that does, that allows you to cut it. So let's change our nudge factor back to 3. Let's take our red line, get it out of the way. Now let's take this and just, let's see what it looks like if we nudge this back. Yeah, that's going to be good enough. Let's set our nudge factor back on that 0.02 and let's nudge this down a little bit. I would maybe kind of redraw that out, inner circle, but it really looks pretty good. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do to finish. Let's look at the original. The original was solid. Let's bring the original in. The original was solid. Of course, this should be solid here. So what we're going to have to do, we're just going to tell you what, probably the best thing to do would be to take our ellipse, Control D and make a duplicate, holding down the Shift key and bring it in to that other line. Now we can delete this part and this part. And really what I'd like to do is take the shape tool and grab like maybe these nodes and move them over that line. And then maybe delete that line. Now we should have a circle. So let's take the Smart Fill tool and fill it in, and let's move that over. Whoop. If you ever do that, put it back, and then go back to your 3 inches with nothing selected. Then grab our black circle, and then we can take all this other stuff away. We could take away our inside circle, and that should work. We might have to change it up a little bit. And because we can actually delete that circle, we can go left click, right click, and now we got 2 outlines. But see how that other circle's not perfect? But that's part of the tree. Let's grab our zoom tool and just see what it looks like. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But let's just see if we just nudge it over. And then, whoop, don't do that. Thought I had a zoom tool. Then just take your virtual segment delete key and delete these lines. Because we do want, whoop. So if you do that, you've got a node that's not touching. That should not have cut. It looks good. Yeah, there we go. And I would clean up these other nodes. Like this is going to be part of the tree that's going up into the circle. Or, no, that's just the opposite. That's going to be airspace. I was doing it backwards. We actually need to cut this out. So any part that is part of the major tree, see, that's going to be air. That's going to be air. Then we could take this and delete it. And we could take, I hate to delete that, but then you just kind of need to look back at it and take the Smart Fill tool and fill it in, and it looks pretty good. I would clean up this edge a little bit. Let's back up here. Whenever you have this Smart Fill tool, you need to make sure you unclick it. So I would probably, you know what I'm going to do? Always best to take the Smart Fill tool, fill that in and nudge it out of the way. Then you have a solid, let's make it in red. Then you have a solid lines, and you're not going to mess anything up. Grab the shape tool, and let's just delete these nodes. See what it looks like. That looks pretty good. You could actually conform it a little bit more to the circle. Now, we've got a lot of nodes. And for a laser engraver, that's not bad. I would delete this one because it's just doing nothing. A lot of little cuts. But this will cut out pretty good. But what I would do is select it all, and you know what we're going to do? Let's move the circle. Well, we're going to have to break the curve apart and then grab just the circle. And if we nudge it back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it with the shape tool. And really you'd have to group this together. And then grab it with the shape tool. Well, that doesn't always work. We're going to have to ungroup it. And then let's just now grab it with the shape tool and then select all the nodes with the shape tool and go to about 10 on this one. We didn't, well, see, we only did the blue. Let's just do it partially at a time. You know what we could do, since that one is causing us problem, let's nudge it out of the way. Well, let's just do them section at a time. Let's do 10. And if you look, we have 227 nodes. Now we have 106. We deleted half of them. Now, does that look good? You know, that's one of the problems. Let's back up here and see what the difference is. Not much difference. Not much difference at all. So now let's grab this tree with the shape tool. And I normally go 20, but in this little space, I'm just going to go 10. And then we'll grab this. We don't really want to mess with that circle. So we've got, if you look down here, 101 nodes. We'll delete it by 10. So 65 nodes. And just do that throughout the whole, you know, especially on the bigger parts. Look at the 58 nodes right there. I'm going to go 20 on this one. And look at the difference. Now it's only 26 nodes. Nodes are a bad thing in plasma cutting. Now we have a node that turned around, a loop. So what you could do is unloop it or just delete that one node. It's a tree, so, you know, it doesn't really matter. And then nudge this back in the picture, nudge our circle back in the picture, and you're ready to go with exception for the name. So everything in black will be metal, everything in white will be taken away. So now let's add that name. And I think it was The Scots, all in capital. And then pick, you know, this is a pretty good font, but you're gonna have to, when you cut this out, you're gonna have to use a stencil type font. And there's plenty of stencil type fonts out there. I would just use a good thick stencil font. Now, in this font, every letter is stenciled. It's preference whether you like that or not. I mean, you could stencil only the words that need to be stenciled. Let's back up here. Let's make a duplicate of that. And let's make it Arial black. Because that's a good thick font. And the only one in this scenario, in this case, is the O. Everything else will work. So what I would do is left click, right click, actually in red, go to object and convert it to a curve, and then just take a rectangle. And there's several ways to do this, but the easiest way most of the time is just to do this right here and just kind of imagine what you need to cut out. And then cut that out. Now, I would always smart fill it, nudge it over, and then because all the letters don't need to have this, but I'm going to go ahead so it all be together. Then take all this and left click, right click, make sure it's a hairline. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. I think this is the one we just finished. No, this is the one we just finished because remember I smart filled it. Smart filling seals all the joints. You can see that's still one part where this is part of everything. Whoop, our letters are not together. We're going to make them a little bit smaller. Put them in there. And I know he's going to use a different name most likely. But then take your Smart Fill tool and fill that in. There's your completed project. I would maybe make the font a little bit bigger. Bigger letters, you know, the better. Especially for lasering or for plasma cutter, you could just grab it. I do not like stretching letters, but that would add a lot to it. And then just make sure it's in the center. And then take your Smart Fill tool and fill that in. And because that's a stencil font, we don't have to do the inside of the S. That's how I would do it. You know, some people might like, you know, with every letter being a stencil, you know, just kind of make it match, but that's preference. And this is a lot of cutting. You know, if you look, so look at the difference in the amount of cuts for this. Well, turn it back to a stencil font. Every one of these sections, so every letter is going to have, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 letters. So that's 27 cuts versus this one is basically 9, 10, 11 cuts. Anyway, I hope that helped them a little bit, and thank you for watching.